appreciate everyone taking the time, and a couple of notes here, just jotted down some things that were talked about throughout the course of the day. And I have to tell you, without any disrespect to his successor, this is about the time where I think about either Senator Hannan or Senator DeFrancisco, because Senator Hannan would sit right in front of me, and literally as I was about to get up, the first thing he would do was go like, and DeFran, of course, would say something similar. But we are here for an important reason, and I want to thank all of my colleagues. I want to thank all of my colleagues for doing the people's business. We come at it from different angles. We certainly don't always agree. And I've had the opportunity to say this, and I beat a dead horse in a good way. In the sense that every one of us should be proud to be a public servant. Every one of us should be proud to be working in government. Every one of us should be proud to be an elected official and to be a member of the New York State Senate. I still find, after all the time I've been here, when I walk into this chamber and I see my colleagues, but more importantly, when I have guests here, they come in there in awe. They're in awe of the surroundings that we find ourselves in on a daily basis. So I try never to lose sight of that and recognize that everything here belongs to the taxpayers, and we're really tenants. And I'm okay with that, because we have these things called election that are a great equalizing factor. So with regard to the budget, I obviously want to give kudos to the staff on both sides for a number of our colleagues in the majority who have been here working very hard. This is the first time in a different kind of fishbowl. I'm not talking about our members, but our staff. Eric, you look a little tired, I'm just going to say, and rightfully so. But I know how hard you've worked and everybody else. On our side of the aisle, clearly I want to thank my colleagues, and I want to give particular thanks to Sean McKinnon and to Joe Messina and to Morgan and to Ben, and by extension, everybody that we work with. And while I don't know every member of the majority staff, I would extend the same type of courtesy to them, because we try. We all know we don't do it perfectly, but we do try. Senator Krueger, you continue to distinguish yourself as a professional, and I know you've endeavored to answer the questions, and my favorite is when you just flat out say, yes, we agreed with all the governor's taxes. It makes it so easy for us when you do that. Senator Gineris, thank you for working as well as you do and so closely with Senator Griffo and our colleagues and getting our business done. And obviously to Senator Stewart Cousins, having gone through this cycle. She's not new to the place. She knows how it works. And obviously got the budget done on time with Brad. It's okay, you can clap. So we obviously need to do the people's business and work in a collegial capacity to the largest extent possible. And I heard one of our colleagues, I think it was Senator Breslin, use the word camaraderie. I hope that never gets lost, even when things get difficult. When I look at this budget, and I look at my colleagues and the expertise that each of our members brings, I think of my colleague here, Ken Laval, who, if he hasn't, should probably write a book, because he's got the longest tenure here in the Senate, has a wealth of history and experience and knowledge. Very competent on so many different levels and always brings something extra to us. And I know he enjoys a very warm relationship with many of our colleagues in the majority. So when I look at the budget, when I say I think I can respectfully speak on behalf of the members of our conference. There are some good things in there. If I had to pick out one thing, making the property tax cap permanent, we have talked about that for years and years and years and years and years. And in reality, this goes back to when George Pataki was governor. George Pataki advanced the STAR program with a property tax cap, which never got enacted. And for the taxpayers of the state of New York, I'm glad to see that that's happening. But as I look at this budget, I think of words that we talked about last year: affordability, opportunity, and security. So in the advent of, or the world that we live in with social media and technology, one of the major newspapers here in New York has a cover that's already out for tomorrow that says tax, tax, tax. Big, bold letters. So affordability, it's not us, not just us saying this. New York is getting less and less affordable to live. And this budget doesn't make things any better. Now, you all have the right and prerogative and opportunity to advance your legislative agenda, which in this case includes taxes. Last year, the governor introduced an internet tax. We killed it. You passed it. There are a number of things that are in here that we don't think are good on behalf of residents, taxpayers, and constituents. Now you have to pay a bag tax when you go to the grocery store. Environmental issues notwithstanding, it's a regressive tax that hurts poor people more than anybody, but it's a new tax. So now we have the internet tax, so every time you go online, it's going to cost you more money. We took away an exemption, it's going to raise everybody's energy rates, so that's a new energy tax. There's a prescription drug tax that's going to hurt a lot of people, most notably seniors. And there isn't a person who doesn't think that prescription drug costs aren't high enough already. There's a new commuter tax. I'm calling it a commuter tax because I've been here long enough to see what it was, what it meant, where it is, where it's going. And I think that's going to be very detrimental to all of the state of New York. So there's a whole bunch of things in here that I think undermine affordability for the average New Yorker. Now, there are a lot of conversations about where the state was and where it's going and how even if you go after the people who are more affluent, they're not going to leave. They have the ability to pay. There's independent documentation that people are leaving. I was reading a story today about revenues in the state of New York and how the controller is saying Wall Street's doing fine. Wall Street's actually doing pretty well, but the people that are getting those bonuses, they're leaving. The bonuses are being generated, but those people are leaving. And they do pay a disproportionate share of the taxes here in the state of New York. Opportunity. No discussion about tax cuts. No discussion about middle-class tax relief. There's an extension of the millionaire's tax, but there's no extension of the property tax rebate checks. No adding on to that program. We tried to accelerate the middle-class tax cut. That was rejected and rebuffed. So there's nothing for the middle class that cuts their taxes. There's nothing, as I just described, in a number of different ways in terms of opportunity. I didn't hear any real discussions about economic development. I don't think there's anything in here about jobs. The question was asked today, how would you score this in terms of jobs? Well, the one I know for sure is that Amazon was on the verge of coming here, so that's 25,000 jobs that I know we lost. And we need to keep talking about that as a point in terms of where we are as a state. That's a lost opportunity. Not changing our regulatory structure, not changing our energy policy, not radically overhauling our economic development programs and making it easier to grow and start a business here in the state of New York, those are lost opportunities. So when I look at security, now I know a number of my colleagues don't like some of the things that we're saying. I'm fine with that, because I don't like a number of things that I hear from the other side, but that's all part of the process. I believe that this budget makes people less secure. There are changes in here that have nothing to do with victims. And yes, we've called this criminal bill of rights. And some people are uncomfortable with that. But there are radical changes in this budget. We talked about Senator Sepulveda's legislation today. We talked about Senator Bailey's legislation. And they were very articulate in terms of what they were saying. But I don't want to vote for something that's going to repeal the sentences, part of a sentence, for over 17,000 New Yorkers who have drug-related offenses. I don't want to go back home to my constituents and say, you know, we have a pocket of people who are here illegally in this country, who have not only been arrested and charged, but convicted of a crime and are now serving time in a correctional facility, and we're changing the law by 1 day to make sure that these people don't have any risk of deportation. The people I represent are saying, wait a second, these people are here illegally and they've been convicted of a crime and they're serving time. So the disposition and the orientation is different from us philosophically. On the bail, there are a number of crimes that are out there for which now people are going to be released automatically. Senator Lanza spoke about this very eloquently today. So all these things tie into, in my opinion, and I think our colleagues, about lost opportunities. Where's the legislation to protect victims? Why are we so concerned about the people who are charged and who have been convicted, but do nothing for the people who are the law-abiding citizens, in my opinion, and that of my colleagues? So that's lost opportunity. And looking at other areas of the budget, education aid, there were a lot of things talked about today. Yes, there's more money for foundation aid, but it doesn't help my districts, and it doesn't help a lot of my colleagues' districts. And I'm going to be very fair, I think, in saying this is a subject matter area that I know as well as anybody in this room. Anybody. So when I talk about education aid, I believe in supporting all of our schools, whether it's New York City or the North Country or the Southern Tier or Western New York. We all share those interests. So that's what we need to be focusing on. But the last thing I want to talk about is this place and what has happened in this budget. We have given more power, no, not we, you have given more power to the governor. We have given away some of our authority and some of our responsibility. And I understand the ins and the outs and the ups and the downs of the budget process and its negotiations. But I look at something like the Public Authorities Control Board, who 3 months ago, that entity, most people didn't even know what it was. Now we've given the authority to the governor to yank somebody from that control board that power didn't exist before. That's abdicating our power and I believe our responsibility to the executive. You all have decided that the governor and the budget director should have more flexibility, more authority to get into the health budget and upwards of $200 million be able to do whatever they want. If they don't think things are going right, we cede that authority to the executive. I don't think that's a prudent course of action. You all have decided that you wanted to have a commission to give away our discretion and our latitude and authority on public financing and campaigns. You all voted tonight for public financing and campaigns, and we all pay attention to the same data in polling. People do not like public financing and campaigns because when it comes down to a choice between programs like health care and programs for the aging and Lyme and tick disease and heroin and opioid addiction, 99 times out of 100, the taxpayer is going to go for those programs, not welfare for politicians. And last but by no means least is sort of a dichotomy when we look at the commuter tax and how that authority is now given to an outside group of people. They may be experts, but they're an outside group of people. That's a decision that should be made by the appointed representatives from the governor, from this legislative body, so we don't give away our fundamental role. We should never do that. It's hard enough working with the executive on all of these issues. So I think we have undermined affordability in the state of New York. We have lost opportunity not only to protect people, but on job security and economic development and all those types of things. And as I said, with regard to security, we just look at things differently than many of our colleagues do. And as I always say, that's your prerogative. As we move ahead, we have a lot more things that we need to do. And, I'm sure I left several different things out. I'll just close with this, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Stewart Cousins for continuing to do the people's business and getting things done. We will push hard. We will, we'll mix it up verbally, and we'll make our points be known. And I look forward to the second half of our session so that hopefully we will address a number of the issues that we believe have been left out, as you all have said. And I know you are very capable of always telling us and me the things that we didn't do. I think I've outlined some of the things that we believe should be priorities, and we're not going to walk away from those. So to all of my colleagues, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak.